This is the 9th edition of SPiEL, the reading event for people who don't usually like reading events. Welcome to SPiEL Headquarters number 1, deep in the inner enclave, the behind the scenes, where the fly by the seat of the pants meets the carefully rehearsed and the edited to death. I'm Joanna Baxter, and I'm your host.
And I am your other host, Dayna Mahannah, reporting to you from an undisclosed location, which may or may not be Venice. It isn't. I would like to make a disclaimer. SPiEL is also, in fact, a reading event for people who do usually like reading events.
Great disclaimer, Dayna. Now, the theme for this time around, other people's problems.
Problems. We've all got them. And so does everyone else, from what I've heard. For the virtual edition of SPiEL Edition 9, we've got 6 readers to tell you just what that means to them. Listen up, folks. Joseph Kakwinokanasum is a Cree Austrian writer. For his manuscript, Woodland Creatures, he was awarded the 2014 Canada Council for the Arts Creation Grant for Aboriginal Peoples, Writers and Storytellers. He's completed the TWS 2018 program and the 2019 TWS Graduate Workshop. He was an honorable mention in the 2020 Humber Literary Review Fiction Contest. He writes from home, where he resides with his partner and their 2 cats. For more about Joseph, please visit his website, starblanketstoryteller.ca.
Before Mom started drinking, she taught me how to tie my shoes, how to tell time. And in those days, when she'd go grocery shopping, for some reason I thought Mom would never return. So on my wire cot bed, which lined the hallway on the 2nd floor of that old white house in Dawson Creek, I'd cry myself to sleep. When Mom returned, there was excitement and joy in my heart. Still, in those days, Mom was the very definition of stricta ad matrum suum, unafraid to use her belt, or whatever was close enough to throw. What did I know about normal? As far as I was concerned, my life was normal. One Christmas Eve, while my brothers and sisters slept, I watched the adults through a trap door in the floor under my bed. I wedged it open with an old scratched-up Hot Wheels. The light from the dining room shone in. A bright beam streaked across my eyes and the wall behind me. The adults played card games, laughed and drank, and told jokes I never understood. Under my bed, I fell asleep to the sounds of their voices mixed with Elvis's Blue Christmas. The next morning we opened our presents. I got a red plastic shovel so I could clear the walk, as my mom's boyfriend suggested. I drank eggnog, and I loved it so much I made myself sick. And when it was dinner time, my sister and I were sat at a small table for the little kids. There were Christmas crackers on our plates. I sat on the matching chair across from my sister. I felt grown up because my feet could touch the floor. I reached over the table, handing my sister the opposite end of my cracker. We pulled, and pop out flew a little plastic prize and a Christmas joke printed on a little piece of scrolled festive paper. Dinner was turkey, with all the fixings, Jell-O and ice cream for dessert. After dinner, I stretched out on the living room floor in front of the television. Us kids watched Disney, Fantasia in black and white, and the adults kept drinking. Mom's partner drank too much. She would find half-drank bottles hidden cleaning the house. She'd pour it down the drain. Perhaps Mom had to be the responsible one. They'd have awful fights. He'd hit her, she'd hit him back. She broke a cast metal swivel chair over his chest. I don't know what he said, but it happened in a flash. He ran and she chased him out the door. He ran across the lawn and tried to jump the white picket fence and got hung up by his ankle. And it broke. The poor bugger had to be picked off the sidewalk by paramedics and taken to hospital. The whole neighborhood watched. Mom was tough. She wouldn't take shit from any man. And that was normal to me. That next spring we moved from the old White House, and that fall we settled into our new home in a village 15 minutes southeast of Dawson Creek. Mom kicked her old man out again, and this time for good. She told us he would come back to steal the youngest, and she was right. When Mom was out, he came back, he beat up us boys, and he scared the girls something. But we never gave up the baby. That year, Christmas included relatives. I remember getting a pair of cap guns with plastic holsters and a belt. I ran out of control about the house, shooting it off. I gave my auntie a headache. "Baby boy," she said to me, "can you go outside and play with your new toy?" I continued to burn through most of my ammo, the kind that came rolled up in strips with red dots of powder. The smell was like matches, but sweeter. I believe 76 was the last normal Christmas. By 77, the baby was 2 years old and Mom began drinking heavily. That Christmas marked a memory of the oldest boys going to the bush for a Christmas tree. And when they finally came home, my brother Michael had blood smeared across his face. The eldest was a worse bully than Mom. "Decorate this house or I'll kick your heads in," he'd say. After a long absence, a couple of days before Christmas, Mom showed up with more booze than food. And a raucous party of strangers suddenly elevated to the status of uncle and auntie. It was weird. That was normal to me.
Our next reader is Martha Warren. Martha Warren is a writer and a poet. Her subjects have ranged from fairy stories to cooking to aspects of law. A grad of SFU's The Writers' Studio, Martha's work has appeared in the League of Canadian Poets Poetry Pause and Fresh Voices, Headline Press, the Red Alder Review, and others. You can find her at m_Warren_writer.
Hi, I'm Martha Warren, and I have 2 poems for SPiEL on the theme of other people's problems. The first is called Sotto Voce. When she was a child, she kept your secrets, but now she's found her voice. She opened her mouth, an enormous yawn, from which butterflies escaped, first one, then many, each a secret with wings, fluttering, circling above her head, marked with indelible colors of memory. Who's afraid of butterflies? You should be, for your secrets have been released and people might recognize them as yours. But the truth is setting her free, and now she feels light as a butterfly. The second poem is called Graffiti. The ruins of Athens are not the Parthenon, not the Acropolis. See the shops in Plaka Malaka, Klisteya Panda, closed forever. Even on the white-walled gardens of upper-class Kifisia, the message, IMF, go home. Thank you.
Kiki Cranelle. A coastal gal, Kiki Cornell, also known as KC, resides in the majestic Ronkies. From trader to designer to baker, she is forever throwing herself into stuff she knows nothing about. She has loved reading and writing for decades and considers it a rare constant in her life. Wife to 1, mama to 2, and a pooch, she loves to run trails, do handstands at inappropriate times, and is an aspiring slackliner.
Her pale skin is draped like a delicate Indian doll in satin of bright blues and greens. A slash of fuchsia across her thin lips, a simple attempt at making herself feel better, brighter. The man at the elevator asked if she was heading to a wedding. Opposite day, like she would play with her sons, she thought, provoking an obnoxious snort of a laugh, offending his gentle attempt at conversation. Her colorful draping falls loosely, shielding her adult underwear, catheter bag, and stitched abdomen. She wobbles in her flip-flops, jabs of pain, something ripping from the inside out, unable to distinguish if the pain is physical or mental, if it came from the incision in her uterine wall or her heart. Awkward yet strategic, she eases her sorry-wrapped self onto the mess of white crumpled sheets. She is a blight upon the chic modern landscape of starched pillows and cool wood of the hip hotel. Her lean fingers drape over the bedside, searching for the customary bottle of white that lies within reach. the balm that blurs the undoing of 20 years of marriage. The hotel staff go above and beyond. Her substitute family for the past 3 weeks, and she needs them because she's not only emotionally, but physically broken now, and who else is there? She knows their kindness is sincere, yet tinged with pity, doing the right thing because it's right, but also as a preemptory karmic strategy to ensure their fate will never be like hers. She Ubered to and from the hospital. The pathetic realization that she's never been more alone threatens to collapse her breathing. She does have friends, one even offered to drive her, but as she is a scattered mess and couldn't manage the coordination. PTSD that she has fought throughout childhood and decades past render her brain in constant crisis, preventing her from operating like a rational, linear-thinking human being as is needed to function in this life. The wine helps, not with the linear thinking, but with the lulling of the frenetic bees constantly buzzing in her body, and the demise of her marriage, and the recent realization that she's a horrendous judge of character when it comes to friends. En route to the hospital yesterday, the news that her best friend of 10 years didn't love her, but instead loved her husband and sons, and he fucking loved her back. She's become a cliche. Someone has come to visit. She sees her in the room as though through binoculars held backwards, tiny, at a distance, removed from the bubble of pain that encases and isolates her and cuts off her airflow. A visit from a kind soul who can spare some time and compassion, lifts a spirit as delicate and flattened as butterfly wings. Suddenly her body burns, not with fever, but anger, pain, and a deep, intimate humiliation, and a call to fight. She carefully swings her pale leg and blue-chipped polished toes through the loose papers, remnants of her life that litter the bed, finding the folder with the divorce papers that her lawyer requires. Oh, to have other people's problems.
James Callahan has technically been a published writer since kindergarten, when his school newspaper published his short poem about going to the moon. Since then, among other things, he has self-published a sci-fi fantasy novel and is currently working on his second. He usually enjoys crafting whimsical and weird tales, but today's offering is a little bit more grounded.
It's a kind of work, investing yourself in other people's business. But it's work that has to be done, because when it clicks, it's all worth it. The problem, of course, is how often it fails to click. You were married once, and it was very good. Until it wasn't. She remarried within a year, of course. You were not so lucky. The divorce cut your legs out from under you, and you weren't equipped to process the emotions. Your coping methods were flawed. Still young, still in your prime, you were handed opportunities that you couldn't bring yourself to grasp, or even recognize until it was too late, and you could only stare balefully at your hungover reflection. Time passes in that unmarked way of grief, and you find yourself actually catching a few trysts. You also find yourself catching the consequences of bar life. In the eyes of Los Angeles, you are no longer prime. A friend tries to play matchmaker. Oh my God, you and Aaron would be like, so good together. So you meet. You spend a few awkward hours learning that the two of you have nothing in common. The truth dawning, Aaron is also overweight. And to the mutual friend, this was your entire identity. You are her two fat friends. You turn to online dating and quickly become used to watching hopeful faces fall at the sight of you, enduring small talk over meals of unnoticed flavors. You hate small talk. But you gamely soldier on, listening to story after story, lives of person after person whose yours will never intersect again. Making the effort to be interested in their problems, trying to glow a connection into being. Occasionally it works. It always goes disastrously wrong, the sparks burning possibilities into ashes. You finally find a mutual connection, but you almost immediately fuck it up in ways you can't comprehend. Recover. Reset. Repeat. Your next girlfriend breaks into your phone without permission and deletes all your pictures of your past. You're left with just memories. Loud, clamoring, accusatory. You can't see what's in front of you. It's all just the ghosts. At some point you realize that the common denominator in all of these failures is you. Maybe despite everything your mother told you, the fuckhead is you. And you could stand to do some work on yourself. And finally things start to turn around.
Joanna Baxter. Joanna has degrees in language and politics from UVic and is a graduate of the Writers' Studio at SFU. She's published in Emerge 2018. Joanna has read at Vancouver Writers' Festival and Word Festival and is the co-founder and host of SPiEL Vancouver.
High-stepping the lawn's heavy dew, she takes her coffee into the garden, where the tomato plants struggle against the ivy. She spots a single delicate new tendril of weed shot up and balanced high above the rest. 6 glorified inches glint in the sunlight and bounce in the morning breeze, as if taking a break to stretch before bending to latch and coil around another unsuspecting stalk of fragrant tomato. She feels wry admiration for the sinew and sets down her cup to painstakingly unravel it from the unsuspecting tomato branch, following it around and around down to the busy scrum near the soil before yanking it out by the roots. She gathers and crushes the long coil in her fist, releasing a herby perfume of dark, earthy musk that overpowers the rich, savory green of the tomato plants. Insult to injury. A neighbor from a few houses ago had kept 7 pots of English ivy in the sunny gap between their properties. The plants were fussed over and supported with stakes. Their pompous green leaves were proud specimens streaked with bold, celebratory white stripes. The neighbor woman had no children, but seemed well suited to nurture invasive species as a hobby. Her prize ivy grew like a taunt. She'd already pulled up the Russian garlic from the second bed, which still houses bunches of dark green kale. A closer look reveals a thick paste of aphids that cover the kale from stalk to each frilly tip. Beyond the beds, by the perimeters of the garden, the cheery throngs of white Shasta daisies lie flattened on the lawn, beaten by last night's deluge and exposing a fresh gang of identified weeds that rise up from behind like a tsunami. Blackberries are steadfast to the north, a thick wall of long arching brambles, a perfect army of amoral soldiers compelled to pillage the land and emerge as a barbed, impenetrable fortress. Stepping around one of the raised beds, she stubs her bare toes on the toolbox. She bends to rummage under a disarray of hand rakes and sodden, mismatched gloves and grasps a trowel with the price tag still attached. She knocks the dirt and spiderwebs from it across her knee and waves it like a white flag at the blackberries. "You win," she murmurs. The house has been on the market for a while. The garden would soon be someone else's problem. Our next reader is Dayna Mahannah. Dayna Mahannah is a remotely based Canadian writer who has worked at Adbusters Media Foundation, as contributing editor at Beetroot Media, and as a reporter for a local newspaper in Ghana. After graduating from SFU's The Writers' Studio program, Dayna co-founded the reading event SPiEL. Now she is writing a damn book because, as her cousin says, we can do hard things.
Hello?
So the other day I'm coming home from a long walk with my dog and I'm holding a leash with one hand and a coffee with the other and talking to my friend on the phone. And I'm almost home, but then the dog lady is out there in front of her building with her dog and a baby carriage. She's like, "Oh, who's this?" Meanwhile, here I am walking by looking like one of those frantic New York white-collar chumps, right? Those ones whose keto salad to go costs double the hourly wage of the person working at the salad bar. Only I'm here in little old Victoria, British Columbia, right? Where people move like they're late for the drop-in clinic. And it's COVID anyway. I don't have a salary and I don't have a goddamn keto salad. I wish. I wasn't on a business call either. I was on the phone whining to my friend about how the bookstore was sold out of Glennon Doyle's new book, which sucked because I even waited for my boyfriend to leave the store before I got the courage to ask if it was still in stock. Anyways, I don't answer the dog lady because I figure, oh, she'll see that I'm talking on the phone, right? And she'll leave me alone. No. She says, oh, sorry to interrupt. And then she starts asking me a million questions about my dog. What's her name? How old is she? Where did you get her? Is she a puppy? She starts telling me that her dog, Berkeley, only eats raw food. Oh, also, it's not a baby carriage at all, but a stroller for the freaking dog. So I had to hang up on my friend and answer all these weird questions. So then get this. The next day, my boyfriend Chris and I take both our dogs out for a walk. And who do we run into? Yeah. And she's got her dog and the stroller with her. And then she starts asking Chris all about his dog Max. Just as Max guns after a crow and drags Chris across the street, then the dog lady turns to me and asks if I've tried feeding my dog raw food yet. Which leaves exactly 0 organic ways to exit the conversation. I'm like, frick, this lady's got a problem. Which is now my problem because here I'm on the phone with you complaining about it. Anyway, Chris says, maybe she's lonely. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, maybe. I've only had my dog for a month and the usual Canadian habit of avoiding eye contact at all costs is like obliterated. Suddenly all these strangers with dogs are talking to me, and honestly, meeting 8 new dogs every day is not the worst thing. It's only a problem when you're in a rush to get somewhere, talking on the phone. So on the way back from our walk, Chris and I see the dog lady again, and go figure, she's chatting up some other neighbor and their dog. I overhear her asking if she crate trains and and then I'm like, oh, fuck. Hi. Yeah, okay, sorry. Oh my God, can I call you back?
Well, that about wraps it up for a true microdose of your favorite virtual event, SPiEL.
You can stay in touch with us by following us on our Instagram at SPiEL_Vancouver or on our Facebook, SPiEL Vancouver.
Last but not least, a huge thanks to all our participating writers. Being part of SPiEL tells the world you ventured forth to share your words and your performance with a limitless audience. We are delighted to have you engaged on all our SPiEL platforms, proving to the world just how much can happen in 3 minutes.
Until next time, SPiELers.